Ever pondered how C-PTSD may resemble narcissism? C-PTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, is a harsh type of PTSD arising from enduring, recurrent trauma. Narcissism, on the contrary, is a personality disorder marked by an inflated sense of importance, empathy deficiency, and an intense craving for excessive admiration and attention. Despite being different, C-PTSD and narcissism share some unexpected similarities. To comprehend how these two conditions can intersect, we must first dig deeper into their separate symptoms and actions. What exactly is this condition we call C-PTSD, and what signs indicate its presence? Complex post-traumatic stress disorder, or C-PTSD for short, is a psychological state that results from experiencing intense, continuous trauma, frequently during one's formative years. Symptoms that indicate C-PTSD are varied and subtle, but among the most prevalent are emotional flashbacks, which are not visual or auditory recollections, but sudden, intense emotional responses linked to past traumatic experiences. Another indicative symptom is a sense of profound guilt and shame. Those suffering from C-PTSD often shoulder the blame for the trauma they've been through, resulting in a negative self-perception and intense self-criticism. Emotional instability is another common symptom, manifesting as fluctuating moods, abrupt anger, or periods of deep sadness. Difficulty in forming and maintaining healthy relationships is another struggle for those with C-PTSD, as their traumatic history may lead to trust issues, fear of rejection, or a tendency to isolate themselves socially. Recognizing these behaviors and symptoms is key in diagnosing and addressing C-PTSD. However, these symptoms may often resemble those of other psychological conditions, adding a layer of complexity to the diagnosis. Now that we have a basic understanding of C-PTSD, let's delve into the traits of narcissism. Narcissism, a term frequently used but often misunderstood. So what does it entail? Let's dive in and unpack this complex concept. Narcissism is more than just an inflated ego, as it is often portrayed. It's a pattern of traits and behaviors characterized by an excessive need for admiration, disregard for others' feelings, and an inability to handle any criticism. It encapsulates a grandiose sense of self-importance, where individuals perceive themselves as superior and expect others to recognize their perceived superiority. One of the hallmarks of narcissism is a distinct lack of empathy. This isn't about failing to understand another person's perspective, but rather a disinterest or even disdain for it. Narcissists often disregard others' feelings, needs, or experiences, focusing solely on their own. This lack of empathy tends to manifest as an inability to recognize or identify with the emotions and needs of others. Now, let's delve into the narcissist's constant craving for admiration. Narcissists thrive on the attention and admiration of others. They're often preoccupied with fantasies about success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. They believe they're special and unique, and feel they can only be understood by or should associate with other special or high-status people. Narcissists also display a strong tendency to manipulate and take advantage of others to achieve their ends. They may exploit personal relationships without any remorse, seeing others as mere tools to reach their goals. This exploitive nature often leads to strained relationships, bringing about a cycle of conflict, rejection, and isolation. However, it's crucial to note that narcissism, like many mental health conditions, varies in severity and expression from person to person. Not all narcissists are overtly arrogant or dismissive. Some may exhibit these traits subtly, making it challenging to identify and understand. With a clear understanding of both C-PTSD and narcissism, we can now explore their intersection. How can two seemingly different conditions overlap? Let's take a closer look. Complex post-traumatic stress disorder, or C-PTSD, and narcissism might appear to be worlds apart, yet there's a surprising amount of overlap when you delve deeper. The commonalities between these two conditions can sometimes blur the lines, making it challenging to distinguish one from the other. One of the most noticeable overlaps is the struggle in maintaining healthy relationships. For those with C-PTSD, relationships can be a minefield. There's a constant fear of rejection or abandonment, often stemming from a traumatic past. This fear can lead to a cycle of pushing people away, then desperately trying to pull them back in. Similarly, individuals with narcissism may also struggle with relationships, though for different reasons. They may manipulate or exploit others to maintain a sense of superiority, leading to unstable and often toxic relationships. Another shared trait is difficulty controlling emotions. Those with C-PTSD may experience emotional flashbacks, periods where they are overwhelmed by feelings of fear, shame, or sadness, often linked to past traumas. In contrast, narcissists may have volatile emotional reactions when their sense of self-importance is threatened. The feelings of shame and guilt are another area of overlap. Individuals with C-PTSD often carry a deep-seated sense of shame due to their past traumas. They may feel guilty for things that were beyond their control. Narcissists, on the other hand, may experience shame when they perceive that they've failed or fallen short of their grandiose self-image. However, they often project this shame onto others, blaming them for their perceived shortcomings. Perhaps one of the most intriguing overlaps is the need for admiration in narcissists and the need for validation in those with C-PTSD. Narcissists crave admiration to bolster their inflated self-image. They need to feel superior and special. On the flip side, those with C-PTSD often seek validation, but not out of a desire for superiority. Instead, they are trying to confirm that their feelings and experiences are real and valid. This need springs from a history of their emotions being invalidated or dismissed during their traumatic experiences. While these overlaps might make C-PTSD and narcissism appear similar, it's important to note that the root causes and manifestations are distinct. C-PTSD stems from repeated traumatic experiences, often in childhood, and is characterized by a range of symptoms including emotional dysregulation, avoidance of trauma reminders, and negative self-perception. Narcissism, however, is a personality disorder characterized by an inflated sense of importance, a deep need for excessive attention and admiration, and a lack of empathy for others. It's a pervasive pattern of grandiosity, need for admiration, and lack of empathy. While these conditions might seem similar, it's crucial to remember that they are distinct and require different approaches to treatment. So, what's the takeaway from all this? Throughout our journey today, we've discovered the intricate and sometimes overlapping characteristics of complex post-traumatic stress disorder, or C-PTSD, and narcissism. We've seen how the two can mirror each other in certain behaviors, and how this can lead to misinterpretations. In understanding C-PTSD, we've learned that it's a response to prolonged, repeated trauma. It's not just one event, but an ongoing series of distressing experiences that shake an individual's sense of safety and stability. Symptoms can include emotional flashbacks, a distorted sense of self, and a tendency to form or stay in harmful relationships. On the other hand, we've unpacked narcissism as a personality disorder characterized by an inflated sense of self-importance, a deep need for excessive attention and admiration, and a lack of empathy for others. Despite their outward confidence, narcissists are fragile and can lash out when their self-image is threatened. The overlap between C-PTSD and narcissism is where things get particularly interesting. Both conditions can result in similar defense mechanisms, such as projecting one's insecurities onto others. This is where the confusion often arises. However, it's crucial to remember that the root causes and internal experiences of these two conditions are fundamentally different. A person with C-PTSD is reacting to trauma, while a narcissist is driven by a deep-seated insecurity. Understanding this distinction is vital, not just for those living with these conditions, but also for their loved ones, and for professionals in the mental health field. In the end, the key takeaway is that empathy and understanding are paramount. It's essential to recognize that people battling these conditions are not their symptoms. They are individuals with complex emotions and experiences. Mislabeling or misunderstanding them can lead to further harm and isolation. Remember, understanding is the first step towards empathy and effective support. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of C-PTSD and narcissism.